Hello and welcome to another Tech Talk. My name is Yves de Beer. I'm a developer advocate at IBM, and I'm joined by my colleague Erik Michiels, who is an IBM architect. In the previous session, we showed you a bit the basics on how to deploy a Node.js application onto the IBM Cloud using Cloud Foundry. In this session, we'll take it a step further by deploying a real Node.js application connected with a Cloudant database.
Indeed. Thank you, Yves, for this introduction. Indeed, we'll continue on your introduction from the previous Tech Talk. And you see here the different steps you are going to take. After some introduction that is more or less repeating what Yves already talked about in the first session, we will take some next steps. We will create a Cloudant service. We will take a look to the code of a Node.js application, deploy it, do a bind, start the application and launch it, and then use it by inserting a document. But you will see more about this in the next coming minutes. At the end, we'll also do an edit of the code and push the modified code again to the cloud. So let's get started. And I will start with, again, showing you the command prompt. Yves used it in the previous session multiple times, and I also will use it, and I will, first of all, check my version of the IBM Cloud CLI. Yes, and you see here the version. Perhaps it's not the most recent one. When you are interested to download this, and we recommend you to do so, of course, where can you find it? Let's take a look. You find here a GitHub where you can find this CLI for the different versions of your operating system and for the different operating systems. What I also installed is Node.js. You can find it on this website for the different operating systems. Another important thing to be installed for making this tutorial or redoing the exercise is an editor. I have chosen for Atom, but of course you're free to use your own editor. And of course, I am also starting from a specific environment, and this environment will be on GitHub, but I will come back to that in a couple of minutes. Of course, and a key element is the IBM Cloud, and I already logged on to the IBM Cloud. Yves showed you in the previous demonstration how to do that. You have here a catalog overview, but I will go immediately to the dashboard of the developer by clicking on dashboard. And there you find the different services, the different applications that I am the owner of, and they will show up in a couple of seconds. While doing that, you see here my account. I'm using here an account with sufficient privileges to do the exercises. But most of the things you will see here today, as in the previous demo by Yves, you can do them by using your light account. So what I will do in the next coming steps, now and then I will come back to this interface, but also I will make use, of course, of the command line. Let's start doing that. But what is the application I'm really talking about? And what I did is the following. I went from GitHub. On GitHub, you find, of course, quite some repositories. One of these repositories is this application. Yeah? And it is accessible for you. We will provide it to you when posting this video on the YouTube channel. And so where you find indeed the code. And of course, I replicated that code to my local machine, which you find here. Yeah? You see here some important files. I will not go over each of them, what I will show you in my Atom editor. This is the Node.js application that I have developed, or in this case, that I found on GitHub. And this application, Node.js application, contains also some elements, of course, that allow me to do some functional things. What I'm really trying to do is in this application, let me show you, is essentially loading up documents in a Cloudant database. That's the thing that I want to do here in this application. Yeah, here it is, insert attachment function, and that's one of the variables that you find here. And I'm really here doing the insert of the file in the database, in the Cloudant database. This is the code that I'm going to push to the IBM Cloud. Of course, I have nothing done yet. I still need to do all necessary steps. I need, first of all, to log on to the IBM Cloud. And that is I'm using here an option that the SSO option, because, yeah, and I will find a one-time passcode to do that. And you will see here now showing up different accounts. That is when you have different accounts in use, you will probably get a list like this one. Yeah? And the one I am choosing here is the fourth account out of my list. Okay, then next, it is important to set a target space, and also a target resource group. In order to do that, I have the following command: IBM Cloud target Cloud Foundry, and I will get a list of options that I can select from. The one I'm going to select here is the second one, because I'm working from Europe. And you see here different things have been set up, have been specified. I could also specify a resource group. Let me do that, because this is also the recommended way to work currently in the IBM Cloud. When you have resources, you can group all the resources that are important for your organization, for your team. And as you can see, everything has been defined now. Okay, let's now do as we said at the beginning. Let's first of all start by creating a service, a NoSQL Database Service. And on the IBM Cloud, this is a Cloudant service. Service create, Cloudant. Then the plan. And I will first of all start by using the plan light, as Yves did previous time. And now I give the name to my Cloudant service. I'm using here my own naming convention. And when I start creating this, I will get, of course, a response from the IBM Cloud. And when we see here, it's a failure. Yeah, what might be the cause? Indeed, I have a light account, a light plan, and I can only create one type of this service. So what I'm going to use, I am going to use another plan. I use a standard plan.
As an alternative, if you already have a Cloudant database, you could probably just create a new database within the same service.
That's indeed a very good remark. You could say, okay, I could create, I am creating a second service, but within a Cloudant service, and we will show you that, you have different databases. I could have chosen for another database in the same service. Exactly. Yeah. Indeed. And when I do this, you see that the developer is wrong. And I wanted to show you that. The standard of service is not free. So it will incur a cost. Okay, so the service is created. And now I'm going to do the following. I'm going to push the application. This is the push command. I specified, the name of a new application. The code, of course, is the code that we saw at the start of the demo. And I also specify the amount of memory. I also say, do not use the manifest.yaml file. Indeed, by default, the manifest.yaml file will be consulted in the same directory as where the code is found. But I don't want that happens now. And I don't want the application to start. Why? Because I did not yet do a kind of bind of the application and the service.
So Eric, the up push is quite similar to the CF push. It's just probably some interpreter that translates it back to a Cloud Foundry push command, right?
Yes, indeed. Indeed. This translates back to a Cloud Foundry command. Correct. Yeah, correct. So you see, this should have happened. But let's now take a look to our graphical user interface of the IBM Cloud and to the Cloud Foundry apps. And I can use here a filter. You remember my application starts with this prefix. And you see here, this application I just created is in the stopped state. Indeed, it was not yet started. When I go to my services, you see here that I have the Cloudant database, which has been provisioned. When I take a look to the connections, I see no connected Cloud Foundry applications. Yeah, it's clear. I created it independently at this moment in time. So let's do something about that. And I do this by executing a bind command. I made myself a little bit life easy by using some naming convention. That is probably something you have to think about when working in a larger organization. I use a prefix, then a code, and then a logical name for my service and application. And now this bind should take place. Yeah, let me come back to the screen of Cloud Foundry. And when I refresh the screen, I see indeed that the Cloudant service has been bound to the application. Okay, now the application is bound, but not yet started. So let's now start the application also with the command line interface. I could have done that also via the GUI, but let's continue this here. Yeah? And now the application is started up really. You see here some messages that are really equivalent to what you saw in our first demo. Indeed, and you see the routes. Yves copy-pasted in the previous demo this route to his browser. This is a possibility. But there is also another easy possibility, of course, that is going to our dashboard again, finding back the list of our applications. Here it is. When you see this is really the dashboard of the developer with all types of information about an application, the runtime environment, and the build pack, the number of instances, the amount of memory used, the connected service. You can start from here, API management. The thing I would like is just show you the URL, and then you get here our application. And you can see here, I have sample document of Eve and Eric, and let's use the application now, and let's try to load the document in the database. And I will take a picture from and do it the upload. And indeed, you see how the picture has been uploaded. So I could take a look now in the Cloudant database, and there you will find the document. Okay, that is the first step. I could now, my next step is really to, let's say, update the code. And then let's push the application again. I can take a look to the database. So let's go to our connected Cloudant. You will see the different databases that are available in this Cloudant service. We could have created or reused a light Cloudant service and created a second database in it. What do we find in it? We find here one document. Let's click on it. It was a picture in the database. Okay. Let's do the final step of this demonstration. Let's do a very small change. Let's further. At the given moment in time, you saw that we a sample document of Eve and Eric. Changes in another sequence, I will say, of Eric and Eve. And push the application again with a code that is modified and not use the manifest file. But I want it to be started, and I want to keep the binded service. I will already in the meantime position myself to my dashboard. It will show up now my list again of services and applications. It is still stopped, as you can see. It's probably still doing this push. Now I see it is started. The application is running. And you see here that I have the same interface, but only one change, a sample document of Eric and Eve. So the sequence has been changed. Let me go back now to our overview. What did we really discuss today? Indeed, We created a Cloudant service. We took a look at the Node.JS application. We deployed it in the cloud. We did a bind. We started the application, launched it. Afterwards, we edited the code. We deleted a document and we pushed the modified code again in the cloud. So I hope this was interesting for you. Don't hesitate to come back to our next episode of this series, Tech Talks by Yves and Erik.